What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams, and I am joined by my two usual co-hosts today. We've got Kyle Henning on the top right of the screen. Kyle, how are we doing today, sir?
I wish I knew. I thought I knew the answer to that question before we watched that Monday Night Football game, and now I just don't even know what that was. I don't know. I'm good. Thank God the bye week's over, because good Lord.
Yep.
That was a mess.
Yeah. Definitely treated some folks a lot better than the other ones. And
we had a good bye week. It was a good
bye week. There's a lot of people who did not have a good bye week. We're going to dive into that, of course. Also joining us, Arrowhead Tom on the bottom of the screen. How are we doing tonight, Tom?
I am, you know what? My week is like 30% as good as Travis Kelce's, which is really good. So,
that's pretty good.
I'm doing pretty well, man.
Because he is having about as good of a life as you can have right now. So, shout out to Travis. But yeah, it's a big week. It's a big week here in Chiefs Kingdom. We are back after the bye week. We took a little bye week ourselves after the Chiefs went into Germany and took down the Miami Dolphins in a pretty good game. It was a pretty solid game for the defense, which is going to be the big talking point of the day. Offense still has some to be desired, but ultimately pretty solid win early last Sunday. Initial thoughts, reactions from the Chiefs' venture over to Germany.
Oh my gosh, they should build a statue of Steve Spagnuolo somewhere in Germany for that game plan.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, at the end of the game, they gave up 14 points, but really that was 7 because one of them was a fumble and, deep in the Dolphins' territory.
They had it stopped, and then one of the dumbest penalties I've ever seen was taken.
Yep. So, So it was a A+ game from the defense, and and that was really something we haven't seen from Kansas City, especially against. We've seen this offense step up against top defenses time and time again. I don't know if there's been a time where the defense has played up to a top level offense like that under Andy Reid. So
the top offense.
Yes, the top.
They were number one in that.
Yeah, they were a big deal.
So
yeah, it was a good showing from the defense to really assert their dominance over a like I said, a very explosive, dynamic Miami Dolphins offense. Obviously featuring the likes of Tyreek Hill, who the Chiefs are very familiar with, and of course Jalen Waddle. They got Raheem Mostert there, who had a pretty good game. Still missing Nick Bolton a little bit in as far as the run game, but overall the game plan to stop the explosiveness and to kind of contain Tua, which we talked about. You got to get a lot of pressure on him, and you had to make him uncomfortable. And overall, their offense seemed very out of sync, which is something that we haven't seen from them so far this year. So
they disrupted the timing, and they talked about it for like 7 or 8 days before that game. Every time you talk to a defensive player, we talked about it on the show. Timing. What are you going to do? Timing. Mess up the timing. Get off the timing. And Garrett, you talked about them Mostert having a decent game. Most of that came in the second half when they're down 21-0, and we don't care if you run the ball. Run the ball. Go ahead. Yeah. You're down 21 points.
Yep, they were letting some of those go.
They held Tyreek Hill to like 30 yards 60, at half and 60 for the game.
And he didn't have any big, wild explosive play. His trademark play is
he had a great wild explosive play. He let Trent McDuffie take his cookies and hand them to Mike Edwards, and then Mike Edwards handed it to Brian Cook, and then Brian Cook ran his Tyreek Hill down the sideline.
One of the most beautiful, this defensive back group between that play this year and Jalen Watson's 99 pick 6 last year against the Chargers. This defensive back group is a lot of fun. They make a lot of good plays.
I saw not only today that Colin Cowherd said we don't have any corners. I thought, wait a minute. You're saying this DB group is good, Tom? How can that be?
Allegedly, yeah. No.
Allegedly very, very good. Yeah.
I heard somebody call that the cooking ladder, and I saw that on Twitter, and I was like, "Yep,
That's a good one.
That's
Yeah,
the best.
definitely. You can't. I don't think we can undersell how awesome that play was. I mean,
The guy
really,
that's not getting
Right
highlighted,
before
that
halftime, like they're
the guy
they're
that's not
marching
getting
on the
highlighted that
field.
deserves it is Mike Edwards. Look,
yeah,
Trent strips him. Great play. Mike Edwards
Phenomenal play by
recovers the
Trent.
ball, laterals the ball, and then blocks the only guy
Then
on the
gets
field
a
that's going to
block.
catch
Yeah.
Brian Cook. Because
Absolutely
if you
hilarious.
watch that, he laterals, and the first thing he does is turn and block. And I think it was Tyreek.
Tyreek was had him wrapped up, and then Tyreek just let him go as soon as he lateraled it, and he just
And
immediately
Mike
runs
turns
upfield.
immediately around and blocks Tyreek, and then Tyreek's like, well, he's gone.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple guys on that play. I'm trying to remember who it was. There was somebody else who was hustling out to the boundary to get a block, and it was like, again, in that situation,
I think Mike Dana was up there.
They had a convoy.
Yeah.
But
I think Mike Dana was up there
after making the lateral and having the presence of mind to immediately turn around and find Tyreek and put hands on him and block him. That's as smart as it gets. And that dude was a late free agency 1-year deal.
And he has been
I definitely think Chiefs
one of the best safeties for the Chiefs. I mean, period. I mean, he might be the best safety on the team at the moment, Mike Edwards. So, and then obviously Brian Cook
do my guy Brian Cook like that. But
I mean, listen. Mike Edwards has had a lot of big plays so far, but Brian Cook, got to give him his credit too of taking that thing to the house. I think he actually had the fastest recorded mile per hour for the Chiefs so far this season.
Yeah,
21
something on the GPS. Yeah.
He was. I mean, those high knees. I think it was. I think Mahomes said it in one of the mic'd up. His high knees were through the roof there.
It was Blaine.
Okay.
Talking to Patrick.
So yeah, one of the craziest, best defensive plays, probably of the entire Mahomes era. I mean, the Andy Reid era. And
the audio of that, the NFL Films audio of that play is hysterical, like the whole way through.
Yeah. It is pretty good. It's pretty just cherry on top that it was Tyreek Hill on the other end of that. I mean, much love and respect for Tyreek Hill.
Running his mouth to Trent that play and then getting his cookies taken.
Yeah, I mean, I still have some respect for Tyreek. Not gonna lie, but
I do too. But
it was good to see him get. I mean, my favorite part was Colin Saunders tweeting out after the game about him, just directly tweeting at him. Really bagging on him. Like I said, it was like he said in the tweet, you know, Tyreek talks a lot of trash, so he deserves getting one back his way. No hard.
But if you watch the mic'd up, you know, afterwards, it's all, you know.
It is all love. You can tell that everyone still has a lot of respect for Tyreek, but you know, it was pretty satisfying to see that. So yeah, obviously the second half didn't go as excitedly for the Chiefs, you might say. The offense really was kind of the biggest.
They were fine in the first half, and then I don't know if we got another shut it down performance, but they are yet again talking about why are we making some of the decisions we're making on play calls? Why are we doing some of the things we're doing? Why are you not using certain personnel? And we'll get into it, I'm sure, either later in the show or later this week when we come back with another episode. And Andy talked about it in the press conference today, but they needed this bye week because they needed to self-scout this offense bad.
Yeah, they've needed the bye week for a couple weeks. It seems like they had a plan for how the offense was going to go, and then it didn't really go as planned, and they just haven't had the space to really work out the kinks. I mean, I think you underestimate, or most people underestimate, what goes into game planning for a week. There's not a lot of turnaround time. There's not time to, you know, sit around and go, all right, yeah, this was great, and we're going to move this guy, this place.
We have all kinds of time to do that. Us and all the other shows and all the other people that watch this team from the outside, we have time to do all that crap during this time window. They don't. Not really.
But there's not a lot of time we can really break down and say and self-scout and say, like, hey, these are the mistakes we're making. Let's work on these mistakes. A lot of the time, NFL weeks, you know, you're kind of just practicing the key fundamentals that you're going through for the next game. So it's, you know, keeping the rhythm.
You're trying to hammer out for your next opponent and see what their tendencies are. And And so, there's a lot of people on the staff. There's a lot of, scouting done, throughout the week, all that. But every week there's new stuff on tape. Every week, there's different lineups and injuries and all that stuff. So it's a constantly evolving game. And I think we'll see some tweaks to this offense. Hopefully that means more Rashee Rice. I think, what Andy Reid said about Kadarius Toney was interesting in terms of just trying to, it's apparently, workload management for him.
He did have knee surgery.
Injury stuff. But suck it up. No, I'm just kidding.
Come on.
I was quoting Andy Reid, ladies and gentlemen. That was an Andy Reid quote. We didn't have Tom in there, but
I'm glad to hear that versus some of the stuff that I was beginning to worry about. Because, like I said, even though the New York Giants fans were assholes and all that, like there was that reputation. Even at Florida, he was kind of a late bloomer, and there was like, is there maturity? Is there, and not that he's a bad kid, but just that he may not, football isn't his first priority. All those cliches. But it seemed like when he got to Kansas City, all that really clicked. And so I don't know if it's because, they're just kind of keeping him, low key because they're trying to keep him, rested up and focused on recovery. But it was just kind of quiet on the Kadarius front for a while, and it was making me nervous that maybe there was some souring going on. But hopefully it's just the injury.
Here's my caution.
Yeah.
Here's the cautionary tale we should all learn from literally last season through this season. Before you go, last several seasons, before you start automatically assuming that we know all about what he is dealing with from an injury perspective, I would just like you to recall back to this last year with the wide receiver they just traded a 6th-round pick to get back, where, come to find out, he was dealing with a tad bit more than just a tiny bit of a hamstring pull or a stomach ache.
Yeah.
That was a pretty
Frank
wild.
Clark, who none of us still fully know exactly what he was dealing with. I mean, I have a fairly good idea based off of the description, seeing as how I've had to live that life myself personally. But again, before we're ready to, and I'm not talking to these two gentlemen here, I'm talking to the majority of the kingdom who I see do this crap on social media all the time.
I mean, I do it.
Let's
I do
wait.
it sometimes.
Let's wait before we
I do that. Yeah.
assume that a guy is, I don't know, not trying his hardest because we just think his injury's not that severe. Because that's the narrative that got played about McCole a ton, and it was totally bogus then, and I said it, and it was totally bogus after we found out what he was actually dealing with, and a lot of people ate their words. So before we go and do all that craziness, let's make sure that, I have a feeling, and Andy didn't say he had knee surgery today just for funsies. It's a subject, like, he's finally tired of hearing about it, and now I think they're probably ready to, like, let him kind of feel it out and see how he's feeling and really cut him loose maybe a little more after the bye, because that's kind of what we all thought they might do with him anyway.
Yeah.
So let's let them, because Andy doesn't talk about player injuries during the season. He made it a point to mention that Kadarius had knee surgery at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's pretty rare. That's really saying something, especially because, the past couple weeks too have
bad
really
and
been.
He's evil and he's lazy and he doesn't like football and his injury's not that severe and he's just not trying. Let's slow that roll.
Yeah, especially with like the narrative progressing, especially like the last few weeks of like, oh, the Chiefs sold him as the wide receiver one in the offseason, blah blah blah, traded these picks for him.
The radio's favorite talking point in Kansas City for the last 2 weeks.
So that's obviously why, Andy Reid probably had.
They were selling Sky Moore as the wide receiver one.
Don't get me started on Sky Moore, but ultimately,
I didn't even bother looking at you for that comment because no, they didn't. That there was a leaked source to the NFL that said they viewed KT as number one to the ESPN guys. That was an actual statement that was reported by sources. They didn't say anything about Sky. That's not nice. And again, set proper expectations.
Tom, what'd you do?
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I disappeared for a second. My internet was like, "Hey."
No, I was talking about what did you just do to Kyle? I mean, what?
Sorry, Kyle.
Don't do the proper expectations thing because
listen,
God,
we have clearly defined roles on this podcast. Garrett hosts. I trigger Kyle. Kyle goes on a rant, and then we have content. That's the formula.
This is the
now you guys know how the sauce is made.
Yeah.
that is our
Kyle's
secret
blood
recipe.
pressure doesn't appreciate it, but it's what it is.
Yeah, it's we'll see. Hopefully this bye week kind of gets the self scouting and maybe opens some guys up. We'll see injury wise kind of who's feeling up to it. But obviously the Germany game versus the Dolphins kind of had another one of those just feeding too many mouths type deal, which I think
Fine
has been
in the first half, bad in the second, and fine
Yeah.
relatively to the rest of the league, not fine to their extraordinarily high standards they've set from themselves prior. Let's be clear on that.
There's just so many people who are getting the ball. I mean, there's 3, 6. There's 9 different people who caught a ball.
They do that all the
Which
time,
isn't-
though.
Germany.
Well, hold on. That's not the worst
problem.
thing because when Patrick Mahomes had his very first MVP season, he, I think, he either set the record or tied the record for most number of different guys who caught touchdown passes. Right?
He did.
I remember it was like a Spencer Ware off the practice squad little thing to. Anyways, here's my thought. Throwing back to that season, actually before the show we were talking about Bob Sutton, and not to bring. Sorry, Kyle.
Sorry to trigger
if you
everybody.
guys go all the way back to the Bob Sutton's last year, and it was right before the game against Seattle, and they had been trotting out the corpse of Orlando Scandrick and I forgot who else at cornerback, and they had 2 rookies on the team, Charvarius Ward and Trayvon Smith. Now, one of those guys went on to be a pretty solid starter in the NFL and still is a solid starter in the NFL. The other guy, I think, is still actually hanging around the NFL. In fact, he might be on the Dolphins.
Still
I think
he played against the Chiefs at some point this year. I remember going, wait, he's still playing? So, but there was a big note, and I remember this being Broncos. That's right. I remember having a moment where I realized this was when Bob Sutton was getting fired because Andy Reid had to tell him, hey, you need to start these young guys.
When you have to be told to take Orlando Scandrick off the field, your career is over. Done.
Well, the moment when you make Andy Reid have to do something with the defense, your career is over.
Well, right.
He doesn't want to live in that world.
That's how bad you have to be for Andy to go, dude, I'd target that guy 400 times a game. Get him off the field.
Yeah. Now,
he's allowing so many yards. Please.
There should be a similar conversation with Andy and some of his guys, right?
Especially the receivers. Receiver coach.
Yeah, I mean that about the receivers specifically, right? Yeah. Hey, Andy, it's time to play, Rashee Rice like he's a starter.
Yeah.
This is the difference.
Give him starting snaps.
His MVP year and this year.
It's time to get Kadarius Toney out there if he's healthy. It's time to really work Sky Moore for better or worse. Now the Sky Moore one's a little bit hard to do because I think him and Mahomes haven't been on the same page. But you got to have those conversations where you go, hey, these old birds, right? Justin Watson, MVS, they're not doing anything any better, right? They're not, they're not helping you out. They're not making these plays that you're missing in your offense.
I would like to
maybe Justin Watson, but you could sneak him in as a fourth guy. Yeah, I'm not saying that to slander it.
He's your best wide receiver this year, so I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I have been so discouraged by MVS, but I also know that MVS is getting a lot of good looks from defenses, and not a lot of. They're not worried about a lot of other things out there.
I think definitely the first couple of points that you mentioned, like just feed Rashee and really just kind of focus in on a couple main guys. I think it's we kind of see it. Antonio Pierce, the interim head coach for the Raiders, in his press conference basically said, I have Devontae Adams, one of the best receivers in the league.
But they have
I'm gonna give it to him. Yeah, and I mean it's not apples to apples. Yeah, hey, he's pretty good. I'm just saying. But it does kind of come down to philosophy of like, hey, kind of just narrow in on some guys to really get into the game flow. We talk about it's talked about a lot with running backs, how if you rotate running backs out too much, you're not really getting them into a game flow. And I feel like there's a lot of that with the receivers, just not really. You're not getting any of them comfortable, and just gotta focus in on some guys.
Having 10 or 11 guys catch a pass is not a problem. Having 10 or 11 guys all catch 2 passes or have 3 targets, that's the problem. Look, they had 11 or 12 guys catch a ball, but Tyreek and Travis and option 3 had
Would still have
80.
5,
Sammy
6, 7
Watkins
catches. Yeah.
whoever had 8 or 5, 6 catches. So your target share was predominantly 4 guys, but you rotated enough running backs and enough guys in at the other tight end and receiver position.
You have the DeMarcus Robinsons and the
and every once in a while, he
Demetrius
realized how to
Harris.
run forward and not backwards after he caught it.
Yeah,
or they just throw it to
Yeah.
him to where he was already in the end zone, so he couldn't run backwards out of it. That's so. When you have
Briefly
those,
had Albert Wilson in there.
all 214 yards in that game against
Chris
Denver
Conley.
or whatever it was, like
Yeah, Chris Conley.
Yep.
it's not about how many guys, it's about the target load and who's getting what.
Mhm.
And it's always been that. And we talked about, I didn't mind them taking 7 into the season, but I also expected them to have a little bit more definition of roles. And I think they probably would have had Kadarius not had knee surgery in training camp.
Yeah, that does seem like from all, at least from what we heard from training camp, that seemed like that was going to be their plan. And then obviously plans change,
Hence Andy again saying he had knee surgery.
Yeah.
Like this season.
This year.
That's all right. You've got another knee, Kyle.
Yeah, the target share, I think that's the biggest issue that
we spent way too much time on this offense.
Yeah.
The defense is what we should be spending most of our time on right now.
Hey, on the plus side though, the 2024 NFL draft class is loaded at wide receiver, and if you don't know about it,
like 13 of them, go watch the Recon show.
Yeah.
Kingdom
Recon did a whole episode.
It's out on YouTube, on Spotify, on wherever. Go
just
pull
YouTube,
it up.
Actually.
Just YouTube.
It's on YouTube right now?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. It's just on YouTube right now. I thought we'd had it put out to all the other spots yet. We're still working on that.
No, it's in my contract. You only get to hear my voice if you're willing to tolerate my face. So
gotta see Tom's
I'm getting ready to tear up his contract and redo it, so it's fine. But the Recon show
can I get a raise?
YouTube. Yeah. Extra couple hopes and a few more dreams.
Perfect. Just what I needed.
That's a good spot to look at all the wide receiver talent that's out and available for next year. As far as this year goes, it's more about figuring out who to use and when and snap counts, and that's, I think, why the week matters. However, we need to talk about this defense more.
Yeah.
They've been the story of the entire first half of this year. They've played the best we've ever seen a defense play, and they've done it against everybody. That pass rush didn't get a lot of sacks against Tua, not a lot. They got plenty. They didn't get a lot. They got tons of pressure, and they ruined his timing, and I mean ruined it.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, and we talked about it on the show prior.
That's their whole
They get hands up. They get hands up. And when you get hands up on a quarterback that's short and depends on timing,
that's pretty big.
It makes a huge difference. Also, they literally said, hey, we know that dude, and he ain't going to beat us.
Yeah, we're watching him. Justin Reed even said it after the game. We were looking at
you're gonna have to
every single play.
Yep, we're going to have to make 17 or somebody else.
You're going to have to make Jalen Waddle or Mostert and that half-eaten offensive line or somebody besides Tyree.
Durham Smythe, maybe.
Beat it. Yeah, Durham Smythe. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Still can't believe they gave Mike Gesicki away for a bag of potato chips, but here we are.
Okay. Well, so I think you bring up the defensive line and the pass rush. So I think the Chiefs, last I checked, before the bye week, were second in the league in sacks with 31.
Wait, what?
Second in the league in sacks.
Tom,
now
that's
they
not
get
supposed
those
to be a thing. They don't get sacks.
Really creative places.
I
do want to give some love to George Karlaftis because he's had an okay season, right, on the sack sheet, but like he is that guy who.
This is why sacks don't count, boys and girls. Like sacks don't matter to defensive coordinators and to defensive player evaluators. They do not matter.
Yeah. Pressures.
Not all sacks are equal, and not all pressures are equal, right? Because if you get a pressure and Patrick Mahomes still drops a dime in your face, it doesn't really count. It's horseshoes and hand grenades kind of.
Or if you get a pressure after 4.5 seconds, it's not really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like great, congrats, good thing the coverage held up.
But George has been disruptive. Obviously, Chris gets a lot of attention, and he's had some success this year. We'll see.
He's also had
the defense is interesting because there's a lot of pieces that they have to make some decisions on this offseason. But right now, they're kind of at that peak between, hey, we've got a lot of young guys on young contracts. We've mixed in some vets. Charles Omenihu has made a huge difference since coming in. Super happy to see him doing well. Again, you talk about like long and disruptive of the passing lanes, and just another guy that can play inside
really
out.
hard to double Chris Jones effectively because they line him up next to him. And how do you double two guys on the same side of the line of scrimmage and not leave somebody at a disadvantage?
You don't. But also, here's what I'm thinking about this week. The Chiefs spent a first-round draft pick on a defensive end who's played, I don't know, a handful of snaps, which is fine. I think we all knew
he's come back. Now, the first 6 weeks he played plenty.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't jumped off the screen or anything like that. He's had some flashes here or there, but we're not complaining because the rest of the team's doing their job, right? The rest of the unit is getting it done, and so I think that speaks to, a lot of like, hey, this is a good group. This is a good enough group that no one's over here going, oh man, this guy's a bust because he's not doing this or that. Like
there's so much depth too. Like you're seeing it throughout the entire secondary. You got guys like Chamari Connor who are still playing really well. Obviously, you got like Josh Williams and Jalen Watson, in the cornerback depth who are playing good still. It's just so Leo Chenal is still out there just balling. He got a
Leo. Some of these rookies, that especially from last year, and I know maybe we should talk about the. I'm gonna blank on the source, but the report of the guy who overheard in the locker room the rookies going, just wait till we know what our actual defense is. This group of second-year players, Brian Cook, Leo, Jalen,
I think that
Josh
was Brad
Williams,
Porter,
all of them have taken a huge step, man. I mean, and Trent McDuffie just looks automatic out there.
So good. I
liked Trent. I don't think I could have, been like, oh yeah, he's going to be this good.
No, I love
Trent. The reason that you don't really worry about where this year's first-round draft pick at edge is because your first-round draft pick from last year at edge is doing his job.
He's doing pretty well. He's doing pretty well.
Oh, yeah, the guy you got out of Michigan Tech or whatever, Mike Dana, in like the 5th round 3 years ago.
It was just Michigan.
He was at Michigan Tech before that or something, wasn't he?
But is it really Michigan?
Central Michigan.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But if Jim Harbaugh isn't there, then is it really Michigan?
Well, hold on now. Central Michigan, home of former number 1 overall pick Eric Fisher,
who this whole fan base hated for the first 8 years of his career. That Eric Fisher.
Yeah, listen, that's not what I was saying. We're showing love to Central Michigan. That's all we're doing.
Central Michigan.
It's great that the Chippewas get a guy every 10 or 15 years that comes out and can play ball.
Yeah, I mean, hey, good for them. Good for them. Maybe Jim Harbaugh will coach there instead.
You can't be mad at what they're getting. The other part is, and this is the part where this is what I've been talking about for 3 years now. Spags has his guys. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2 of them. He has all of them.
His guys.
All of them. This is why Tom said the sacks are coming from different and unique places. Do me a favor. I know that the Giants' defensive line was absolutely juiced in 2007 with some of the names that they had on it, but go look at where a lot of their sacks and some of the different things they did came from. This looks very similar, again, to the NASCAR packages, to the amoeba defense, to the bringing pressure, only bringing 4, but bringing 2 linemen and 2 corners and dropping 2 ends into coverage in the zone in the flat. Oh, wait, those 2 ends can actually run into the flat because one of them's like 6'8" and played water polo or whatever until like 8 years ago. And the other one is a pure athlete on the other. Like, it's not the same thing.
That sure does help.
Having Spags have his toys and his weapons in his toolkit, this is what I expected. When he finally got his defense built the way he wanted it, they were going to be absolutely a problem, and they are. I didn't know it was going to be this year because I didn't know if the guys were going to take the jumps from last year so quickly, but they did.
All that and more. I mean,
yeah,
it's going to be, and it's crazy, like how set it's going to be too for the next couple of years. Like just drafting, like they're set. They have the same young core for at least the next 2-3 years.
Several.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And at that point, they're going to be able to pick and plug holes with draft picks. They can pick and plug.
Just supplement as you need. You know,
they can pick and plug. Now that the foundation of this defense is built, you're just keeping pieces moving.
And that's another reason why I think Felix hasn't really been talked about too much, is because that pick. I mean, it was kind of a luxury pick. I mean, it's obviously a defensive end is always a need, but it's like there really wasn't much of an expectation.
We didn't know we had this much ready to go talent at the end this year. They took that. Yeah. Let's not revision that a little bit, because that D end was a need. It's still a need. They still need another D end.
Yeah.
They just they don't need him today.
Which is
good when you're drafting at 32 and not at 13.
He was always going to be a not this year kind of reliant guy, even though DN was still
he may be 2 years out. I mean, I'm not saying that to dog on him. He's just, I think we'll see an uptick, next year. But he may be a guy that they have to let go.
And they may not have to, again, because they don't need it.
Yeah.
If you're getting the play you're getting out of your ends right now, you're okay.
You're pretty good. Yeah. You're in a pretty good spot.
Their defense is doing all right.
And they might as well just turn Leo Chenal into a run-stuffing pass blitzer, because I don't know what else you're using him for, but that's all I would use him for.
Yeah, just 3-4
outside linebacker. If he's on the field, he's coming forward. Whether it's to defend the run or to come after the quarterback, he's coming forward. I don't care.
I mean, but even he's shown some. I mean, again, they use him very specifically, but he's had to play in some spots, when people with some injuries and stuff, and he's held his own. Right, he's figuring it out, and I love Leo.
He's smart, which I've never been worried about, and that's why I thought he'd always kind of figure out the
coverage. And the best athletic testing linebacker we've seen in 50 years.
Physical psychopath.
That does help quite a lot.
I still go back and watch that video of him pulling himself up the side of that bus off the handrails every once in a while.
I wasn't sure if he was going to pull himself up or pull the bus over, but yeah.
Good Lord.
I mean, he'd made a dent in that rail. Like, that's how pretty crazy it was. So, yeah, safe to say that the second-year guys are really a huge key to the defense playing as well as they are.
I'm asking you two this. If you're Spags this week, what are you scouting? Because you can always get better, but when you go through and watch that tape, you're like, wow.
Probably just rewatching the Super Bowl and being like, all right, how do we not allow 35 points this time,
Well, so obviously AJ Brown's had a ridiculous year, so we're gonna see some matchups there. Yeah. The hard thing about the Philadelphia Eagles offense is you pretty much can't, you have to get them behind the sticks and keep them, because if they get in that 3rd and 2nd, 3rd and 1, what's coming, and
it's over.
We could talk about how to stop it, or you can just not get into that.
You need to keep them outside of 3rd and 4th and 3.
Yeah,
it needs to be 3rd and 4.
A ridiculously hard game when
3rd and 4 plus is what you.
It does make playing defense pretty hard when every first down's a 1st and 7, basically, because
I mean that really is essentially what it is, and that is a challenging spot to be in.
If there's any,
especially without Nick Bolton, not that Drew Tranquil isn't holding his own, but Nick Bolton a little more intentional about sticking his nose in things and getting.
He's a better run defender. He is. Plain and simple. He is a better run defender. I don't know that I would go better overall linebacker, but he's a better run defender.
I will say this: we just talked about Leo. I would put Leo head up over the center if they come with the tush push. Just all right,
go ahead.
We don't even care what happens. Go
Rip
bite somebody's kneecaps off underneath that pile. But that's the biggest thing about this offense. Not to discredit the rest of the pieces that they have, because they have some ones. Dallas Goedert's hurt, so that's going to be
that's a big loss for him.
That's big.
Travis Kelce has said ad nauseum that the offense should run through Dallas Goedert, and he's
I will say this: the matchup between Trent McDuffie and Devontae Smith is going to be fun. As much as those guys are matched up, and then just to see how they handle L'Jarius and AJ Brown.
That's going to be the main matchup. I think that's probably going to be. That's kind of the trend we've seen from teams is.
But generally speaking, again, AJ Brown's having a hell of a year, and
he's really good.
He's really good at football. Breaking news, expert analysis.
L'Jarius Sneed,
This
he will
is
not
stupid
back
to
down
say
from
out
the
loud,
challenge.
but this is a matchup you like. AJ Brown and L'Jarius Sneed are both physical guys. They like playing. They're gonna let those two go at it, most likely.
Yeah.
I think so. I think
Knocking
AJ
on
Brown will
wood,
probably,
they're gonna let those two go at it. So it's gonna be a fight on that edge between those two.
yeah, and we're going to get into that more later this week, a full kind of preview of the Eagles. But
Yeah, how'd the rest of the bye week go, guys?
bye week
Pretty
for
good.
everybody else. Yeah, it went. I mean,
Anybody
went
got
good for us.
anybody get any new song lyrics written about them? You, Tom? Garrett?
Not me, but I know a guy.
There's a guy sitting over Tom's left shoulder, actually.
Yes,
if you're watching this on YouTube, you should check that
background
out.
of the week, featuring
Yeah,
our
Travis Kelce
star-crossed lovers.
Had quite the weekend. Obviously attending Mahomes' charity event on Thursday, the 15 Mahomes Foundation, and then hopping on
Lots
a plane.
of money raised for a great cause.
It was great. It was a great cause. I actually saw. I think Taylor Swift had donated a
She did.
signed vinyl or something.
Yep, she
For
contributed.
the
She contributed to his buddy's charity
That's
gala.
very kind. Also her buddy's husband. You know, because she and Brittany are very good friends now.
Yeah.
And then Travis Kelce, obviously.
Forgot about that.
Travis Kelce hopped on a plane for a 16-hour flight, which I didn't know was that long of a flight down to Argentina.
Did the Taylor Swift private jet tracker jump over to the Travis Kelce private jet tracker? Did I miss that?
I'm sure it is. I think I just got that from like generic flight info. Maybe the PJ was turned up.
No, Swifties track everything related to Taylor.
Oh, I'm sure.
Travis's flight
someone,
patents is not
someone
out of the
most
realm
certainly
of possibility.
did. I mean, they have all 22 film on
that was crazy. First of all, whoever tweeted that was absolutely genius. Whoever tweeted that is genius.
And they had all 22, which is what we're seeing from Tom's shoulder.
Just crazy.
That's all 22 look over here.
So yeah, Travis Kelce attended Taylor Swift's show, was hanging out with Taylor's dad.
Got Taylor's dad to be wearing a Chiefs lanyard.
Yeah.
Really?
Shout out, and I believe his name is Scott. I think his name is Scott. So shout out Scott.
We'll get canceled by the Swifties.
Swift. That's a sick name. But yeah, Travis and Scott were jamming out in the tent, and Taylor had a song change, had a lyric change in one of the songs.
A couple of them sounded like, from what I've understood throughout the rest of it.
I think it was just the one, but it was.
There was a Chiefs comment, and then there was some other ones brought out. I don't know. The Swifties are crazy. TikTok's a weird place. Just know that I've seen far too much Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce content over the last 48 hours.
Crazy how much Taylor Swift content I've seen the past couple weeks. But I'm all here for it. I am officially a Swiftie now after all this, especially after the end of the concert where
Dad
she walked
ushers him out of the tent.
Yeah, the old Scott Swift puts Travis
front and
center stage on the tent, and magic happened.
Oh yeah.
Scott's a real one, man.
Scott knew what he was doing.
Scott, the best development out of
Scott
all
knows showbiz. Let's say that.
It appears the Swifties love him because if they don't like you, they will make your world a living hell. But
ecstatic about it. So safe to say, good weekend for our boy Trav. Happy for him. We here on the Kingdom Says are,
and that was Saturday night.
Fully on board. Yeah.
Now, what was the Thursday night football game?
Bears and somebody that doesn't matter.
Was it somebody that doesn't? Was it Panthers? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Bears and Panthers.
So everything good that happened after for the Chiefs in the bye week, other than this was a statistic that Jason Anderson popped out today on the radio, I believe, on 810. Worldwide search for Chiefs ticket sales after she changed the lyric to the guy on the Chiefs went up 200%.
Yeah.
Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan were safe to say were dancing also at their homes or at the office on Saturday night when.
Yeah, I think everyone's pretty ecstatic to have Taylor and her followers on board with the Chiefs. Welcome to Chiefs Kingdom.
Unless you wanted to go to a Chiefs game anytime in the next 2 or 3 years for a reasonable price.
Good luck to us.
And if she ever does accept the Super Bowl gig, if you're an NFL fan, you're not getting into that game. I just want
sorry about it. So yeah, good weekend for our board Trav. And then good rest of the bye week for the rest of the bye week went pretty well. for the Chiefs, as far as the teams who won and lost, the Chargers lost. The Ravens lost.
Who did the Chargers lose to again?
The Detroit Lions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who were
Pretty
kind of
good
a
football team
juggernaut.
here.
That's
They're
crazy.
good-
I
they're a
thought
good
the
ju- they're a good
Lions
football
was.
team.
I thought that Lions loss we had was a bad loss without two of our three best players.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So
Huh. Weird. It's almost like
Yeah.
I saw the comparison the other day. It's funny that the Chargers and the Angels are in very close proximity to another because the Ohtani and Trout tweets and the Justin Herbert tweets are getting oddly similar. Justin Herbert had 747 yards and hasn't done something since Tungsten Armo Doyle, and the
They
Chargers
cannot
lost
win.
40-37.
Yep, it is. There are a lot of, as an Angels fan myself, I can say there are a lot of similarities. There are a lot of parallels.
What's happening?
It's
Oh my
pretty
God.
tough. Pretty tough for Justin Herbert and the boys.
But
But
Brandon Staley is
Yeah.
still standing at the podium 3 years into this coaching tenure talking about losing one-score games like it's a good thing. And I just
I don't even know.
can't.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
swear the
that's-
Chargers are. You talk about
They're
snake bit franchises. They're
I mean, they have to be
Well,
hurt. I don't know why. but
We
they're
we talked about this, haven't we? They've changed GMs, they've changed coaches, they've changed quarterbacks, they've changed personnel, they've changed
they
medical
changed
staff.
cities. What are you talking
They've
about?
changed
They built a whole new
cities.
stadium.
Yeah,
They've moved.
and
I
the
think they
crazy
moved
part,
twice, haven't they? And they still can't get it taken care of.
the really crazy part is this has been going on for like a long time.
Like 30 years.
like
30,
Peyton
40
Manning.
years.
Peyton Manning refused to get drafted by them.
Eli, wrong Manning.
Eli Manning refused
Which
to
is
get drafted
worse,
by
by the way.
them.
The worst
Yeah.
of the two brothers said, I'd rather go to the Giants.
Yeah, it's
Anywhere but there.
certainly is crazy of a franchise. So yeah, Ravens lose, the Bengals lost, the Jags lost, the Chargers lost.
The Ravens lost to a Deshaun Watson first
The
half
Browns.
where he started 7
Yeah.
of 21 and threw a pick 6 on the first play.
Yeah, I mean that's just classic AFC
Yeah,
North. I feel like the
Everything's
AFC
good.
North, it's pretty much you're guaranteed to win one and lose one versus every opponent in the AFC North. You know, that's kind of how it feels like it goes every
Coin
year.
flip every time. Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
way, the Bengals turned around and won up the Ravens on what the was that? Because
Bengals one was tough.
what was that?
I mean, they ran into a buzzsaw versus the
Mm.
Texans there. So
Yeah. CJ Stroud just got the dog on
The
him, man.
Texans
CJ Stroud is a
injury-
dog.
It just
Hold on.
continues to be another
We are-
AFC quarterback.
CJ Stroud's been phenomenal, but we are not going to let the Bengals off the hook on the Texans having an injury report longer than their roster. And
That's
they
fair.
went in there and beat them.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, Lou Amarino, what are you doing, buddy? Come on, you're getting beat by a rookie quarterback like that. What are we doing here?
Oh my
Steve
god.
Spagnuolo would never. But yeah, safe to say, I will say this too. CJ Stroud, he is really good, and as a fellow AFC fan, I would be on board with him being the next best AFC quarterback. Like if that happens and he ends up being the guy that the Chiefs have to compete with for a long time, I like CJ Stroud. I would like
Is
to see
that
that.
because you think the Texans are going to suck enough that they won't put enough talent around him to matter?
Well, yeah,
or-
but also I just don't really like Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. So
Well, Josh Allen, we'll get to in a minute when we go through the rest of the teams that lost during the
Yeah.
bye week. But
Yeah.
and not
Literally
really
just
fan
moments
of
ago.
Joe. So if CJ Stroud's the one that actually does it, hats off to him. You know, everybody else can eat it.
You cannot. Can anybody in the NFC draft a quarterback? Anybody?
It's impossible. I mean, the Panthers just said, nope, we'll just take the 5'9" guy or
They've
5'10",
tried
whatever he
4
is.
times.
Yeah, every year without fail. The NFC just has nobody.
All right, so let's recap. So we've got the Ravens gone, the Chargers gone, and the Bengals have lost. Who's
Yeah,
next on the magic tree of we wanted them to lose this week?
the team that just
Bills.
played on Monday Night Football here, the Buffalo Bills
Just
dropping to
get
the
in the
Denver
game.
Broncos in a game that both teams tried so hard to lose. I mean,
Okay, now we can talk about Josh Allen because
Yeah. he's been having a rough year, and that was a rough game from him. I mean, 2 interceptions, a fumble. It was not a great performance against a very, very bad Broncos team. I mean, granted, we lost to the Broncos too, so we can't talk too much about it. But
it's
Be
the
careful. We're living
it was
in a
the
glass
same
house.
game script. They've won the last 2 games they've won
Yeah.
against the Bills and the Chiefs have been almost identical game scripts.
Mhm.
Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
5-4 or 5-1 turnover ratio. The offense gets nothing but field goals out of it. The defense continues to go to just barely continue to make wild plays and barely hang on, and then the other team walks up and pulls a 12 gauge off in their foot 3 times and calls it a day. Josh Allen threw one of the worst corner routes at the 2-minute warning time frame that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
What was that? That led to a field goal that the Broncos should have never had. The Broncos also missed 2 extra points in this game.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't even have been as so.
The Broncos.
Josh Allen then dropped a handoff. I don't mean he
just straight dropped it.
Put it in there and then it bounced off. No, I mean he flat out dropped the ball. Dropped it on the ground.
Gravity, take over the ball. Here you go.
James Cook got stripped the first play of the game, I think, for them.
Yep.
And yet somehow they were leading that football game until they left too much time on the clock for checks notes. Russell Wilson and Samaje Perine and one throw to Jerry Jeudy to then get 12 men on the field when the Broncos missed the field goal.
Yeah, the field goal that they hurried up to do after kneeling, and then they're like, all right, just hurry up the field goal team. Oh, we missed the field goal. That's crazy. And then
we didn't even talk about the Jags getting drop kicked by the Niners.
Yep, Jags also lost. So with that, the Chiefs are the only 2-loss AFC team, which is pretty good. And we also have, I believe, tiebreakers over a lot of said teams versus AFC wins and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So safe to say the Chiefs are very much in control of their destiny once again for the 1 seed coming into the second half of the season here, which is exactly where we need to be. Just keep on doing our thing. We got some good opponents on the horizon, and
I want to do this with you guys. Here's the Ravens' remaining schedule. Bengals on Thursday night. By the way, both teams coming off an absolutely awful loss. Just so we're all on the same page for that. They get 4 days to lick their wounds and then play one another, and somebody gets to take another L, most likely.
That'd be tough.
Then the Ravens play the Chargers, the Rams, the Jaguars, the Niners, the Dolphins, and the Steelers.
It's kind of a buzzsaw. I'm not gonna lie.
That does
Steelers
not
are
sound
like 6-3
fun at all now, does it?
Yeah. Steelers are.
Oh, the Steelers are ass, but somehow they continue to win football games because they've been outgained by everyone all year. I don't even think they had 200 yards again, and they've won.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin continues to be a very crazy coach. I don't know how he does it, but he does it.
So that's Baltimore. Now, Baltimore is the next closest team to us at 7-3. The Jaguars still have to have a much easier-ish schedule just because of the last 3 games on it.
And their division is pretty bad, so.
Like I said, so they've got the Titans, which the Titans are not good this year. They have to play the Texans, who are apparently a playoff team.
Apparently a dog.
As we've discovered. The Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens. That's their next 5.
That's kind of
then they finish with Buccaneers, Panthers, and Titans. Okay, that's
and we have a tiebreaker over
going to
them.
be okay. They're probably going to be good there. Miami's going to be fine. They play the Raiders, the Jets, the Commanders, the Titans, the Jets, the Ravens, and the Bills.
The Jets twice. Yeah. That's crazy work.
I wish we could play the Jets twice. Well, I don't know. We made Zach Wilson look like Dan Marino for a minute.
So then you have the Browns.
Back in a couple weeks. So
then you have the Browns who play the Steelers, the Bengals. Or I'm sorry. What the hell just happened?
Where are we at?
I'm not worried about the Browns.
Honestly, there's not.
So then, so then you look at Cincinnati's schedule. Here's the Bengals, who are, by the way, as it currently sits, outside looking in to the playoffs.
Yeah, them and the Bills. It's just hilarious.
The Bills are actually in a worse spot than the Bengals because the Bills are 5-5 and the
Bengals
are 5-4. The Bengals have, in order. Why did it break? The Ravens on Thursday, the Steelers, the Jaguars, the Colts, the Vikings, the Bengals, or the Steelers again, and then the Browns again, who they have never played well against ever.
You don't want to run into the Vikings, I'll tell you that much. So
That's no fun. I think they have like the 4th strength of schedule or the 6th strength of schedule down the stretch. And then the Bills, bro, that game tonight.
Yeah, the Bills aren't even on my radar anymore of a team that I'm worrying about. I mean,
Jets,
they are
Eagles,
dunzo. They're probably going to
Chargers,
lose to the Jets.
Patriots, Dolphins, and us. And we're in there on, what day is that? December 10th. And they're
So
at
safe to
Kansas
say,
City. By the way, that
the
game is
Chiefs-
at Kansas City. And then they have to play the Cowboys still, too.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, yeah. So the Chiefs fully in control of their playoff destiny here. We're going to try to get you guys out of here. Basically, sum it all up here. Decent Germany game. Bye week went pretty well for the Chiefs, and we've got a lot to look forward to coming up with the Eagles, which we'll have a full episode later this week. We might even get a special guest on for that one. We'll see.
Are the Eagles and the Bills?
Spoiler alert, it's going to be Taylor Swift.
Yeah, we're getting Taylor on.
All your Swiftie friends.
Oh my God.
Yep. Bring him on her podcast debut.
Go
right
look
here
at the
on
Chiefs
Kingdom
schedule
Says.
is what I'll leave y'all with. After all the schedule stuff I just read you and what everybody else has left, you guys can go look at the Chiefs schedule. Tell me, we'll put a poll out. How comfortable are you with the Chiefs being the 1 seed entering the playoffs? I'm curious because it lays out nice. They have control and they have a nice path to it minus like 2 games.
Yep. So we will leave you with that. Thank you all so much for tuning in, watching, and listening to this one. If you're only listening, you should go watch us over on YouTube, Kingdom Says. And if you're just watching this, you should check us out on Spotify and Apple Music and any other podcast platform you like. And give us a like, drop a like, drop us a follow over at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And give us your thoughts about.
Yeah. Make sure you wish Kyle a happy birthday on Friday.
Of course, yeah.
We'll probably have an episode before then.
We'll probably have an episode. We'll sing happy birthday for him on before then. So we'll be.
I don't know if we need to.
Yeah,
do
we will.
that.
Yeah, we will.
All right. Yep.
Tom's birthday is not far off from now either.
Okay, we got a couple birthdays coming
the
up.
same
here.
day. That was the joke.
I know that was the point. That was
the joke. That was the
It's
joke.
my joke.
That was the joke. So we got a couple birthdays to be singing. I'm gonna be singing happy birthday to both of you. That's crazy. All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in, listening, watching, supporting, and we will see you guys in the next episode of The Kingdom Says.